What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my review of the T-Mobile Revvl 8. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is the T-Mobile Revvl 8. Now this phone was recently launched in August of 2025, and this phone, as the name does imply, is the successor to last year's T-Mobile Revvl 7. Now that device was certainly very popular because it's giving us immense value while not being too expensive and really giving us all the features we want. And for the Revvl 8, that's pretty much the same situation. This phone is building upon the strengths of its predecessor and is giving us an all-around great device, especially if you're looking for just the core fundamentals of a smartphone. So if you're someone who just wants a good, reliable phone that's good for making calls, going on social media, taking photos and videos here and there, and just staying connected to the world, then I think this is definitely a phone worth considering. Another awesome thing too about the Revvl 8 is that it is being offered at some really competitive promotions. For example, as it is, this phone has an MSRP of just $199, but in addition to that, if you're switching in from another carrier, whether it's at Metro by T-Mobile or the regular T-Mobile, you can get this phone completely for free, which is really awesome. And as you probably noticed, this phone has T-Mobile branding on it. It is literally a T-Mobile device, and due to that, you're gonna have to get this phone from T-Mobile or Metro by T-Mobile. So this is not a phone that's offered at other carriers. I'm sure that makes complete sense, and that's certainly something we see time to time at the various carriers, is that they do get these exclusive devices branded under their own brand. But before we get too far into things here with the T-Mobile Revvl 8, let's see what all comes included in the box. So here's the box right here. You can see we have the branding of the device right there. We're getting a SIM card removal tool. We're getting a quick start guide and some other literature. And finally, we're getting a double-sided USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. So there is no USB wall adapter included. You will have to provide that on your own. Also keep in mind is that this phone is compatible with up to 25-watt fast charging, which is certainly a really awesome thing. But you are going to want to make sure that you're using a wall adapter that does support at least 25 watts. Now thankfully, that'll work fine with this cable, but again, if you're using a wall adapter that's rated for less than that, then you will not be able to recharge this phone at the maximum speed that it's capable of. And honestly, the 25 watt fast charging is a great selling point that's offered by this device, so you certainly will want to take advantage of that. Now with the T-Mobile Revvl 8, we're getting this very large 6.6 inch display. So for a long time, it seemed like with budget devices, you typically get phones with smaller displays, but that is not the case here with this device. So that is certainly a nice premium feature that we're getting. With this big display, it's going to make it great for watching video content, it's going to make it excellent for going on social media as well, and really just doing anything on the device is going to look awesome on this really big 6.6 inch canvas. This display does feature a 120Hz refresh rate, and basically what that means is that everything moves a lot smoother here. So the actual refresh rate of the display is faster compared to what you'd find on a typical budget phone, which is more around 60 Hz. So having this fast refresh rate certainly does make the experience better in my opinion. This display is LCD. So with that, you're not going to be getting as great of viewing angles. You can probably see that when you're looking at it at different angles like this, the display is a lot darker. So you really do have to look at the phone face on. And even compared to other smartphones that I've tested previously with LCD, this is probably one of the worst implementations of LCD in that sense. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call that a deal breaker because, again, this is a very affordable smartphone. And the display still does look plenty good when you're looking at it face on, but just know that that is a weakness with this phone. And especially when you're outdoors, you're gonna notice this quite a bit. It doesn't mean that if you're outside, you can't use your phone. It's just not gonna be as great of an experience compared to maybe a much more expensive phone that's around $500 or even $1,000. Considering that a lot of people are gonna be getting this phone for free, I wouldn't necessarily consider that a deal breaker, but just something to keep in mind. Now, on a more positive note, this display is 1080p, so everything's very crisp and clear. So if you are watching video content, that will certainly be a nice thing. And even just doing other things like reading text on the phone itself is going to look a lot clearer due to it being 1080p. We're also getting a PPI 400, which goes along with that. And then with this device, we're getting a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor, which in my opinion, 20:9 is awesome because in theory, you can fit more of your social media feed in one single frame here, so you're not scrolling as much compared to phones that are maybe a little bit shorter. Now visually, this phone doesn't necessarily look that modern, considering that we are getting a water drop notch up top here, and then also pretty thick bezels all around the display. So it's funny how even though there's a notch, There is still a large bezel up top here, and the thickness of the notch is nearly as thick as the bezel that we're getting up above. So I'm not really sure what the point of that all is. And then down below here, this bottom bezel is pretty thick as well. So this phone easily could have been launched 5 years ago. We've been getting designs just like this device for nearly half a decade at this point, so it's certainly nothing modern or sophisticated, but at the same time, it still is very usable. But this phone is not small by any means. So if you are wearing shorts or pants with a small pocket, then this phone might not be able to fit completely in that pocket. But it's really no different compared to any other large phone. Just keep all that in mind. Now stay tuned for a little bit later on in the video, as I'll be showing you a bunch of different photo and video samples from that front-facing camera and the other cameras here on the device. Now with the T-Mobile Revvl 8, we're getting 128 gigabytes of storage, along with microSD card expansion, which is actually compatible with up to 1 terabyte microSD cards. So that's really impressive. The fact that we're getting this much internal space for a phone that's this affordable is very impressive as it is. I mean, there's phones that I've been testing that are way more expensive than this device that only offer 128 gigs as the intro storage configuration. So the fact that we're getting that here with this phone really is awesome. And then I know there's still a lot of people out there in 2025 who want a phone where you can add in a microSD card, and we're actually seeing less and less phones being offered with that feature. So that is a great thing to see as well. And then having a 1 terabyte maximum really gives you a lot of options here. So if you are someone who likes to maybe save a lot of music offline, maybe you just have a bunch of old MP3s that you just want to have locally on your device, then this might be a perfect solution for you, because you can simply transfer in the SD card from your previous phone. And that's another thing that I think a lot of people don't talk about. There's a lot of people who have a lot of their media on a microSD card from their previous device. So instead of having to go through all the trouble of transferring from one phone to another, you simply just take out your old SD card, put it in this phone, and then you're good to go. Now with this device, there's no wireless charging, which makes sense because it is a budget option, but we do have a fingerprint sensor located on the power button. So we'll give this a try right now. And you can see it's very fast and responsive. We'll try that one more time. So that's very quick. And I also like the magenta accent on the power button. That's just another reminder that this is a T-Mobile device, because magenta is the official color of T-Mobile. Now, in addition to the fingerprint sensor, we're also getting face unlock. So I do appreciate that we can get in this phone using multiple methods. Now on the back of the device, we're getting a dual camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera and then a 2 megapixel macro camera. And the main camera here actually has optical image stabilization, which is also known as OIS. So with OIS, you're going to be getting videos that are a lot more stable, and then your photos are less likely to be blurry. Now over here in the camera app, you can see how things look. This is the main rear camera right now. Then to get over to the macro camera, go to the More tab. You can access macro right there. And then with macro, you can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. Certainly a nice feature to have. We can then go over to portrait mode to get those nice blurred out backgrounds. So, it is still nice that even though this phone is meant to be a budget option, we're still getting a lot of features here when it comes to the cameras. We can also flip around to the front-facing camera. There's me right there. We can take portrait selfies. We can also take standard selfies as well. Now, by default, this phone doesn't actually capture images at 50 megapixels. So if you do want to take photos in that full format there, just go to the More tab, go to 50M, and then from there, you can actually capture 50 megapixel photos. Just keep in mind that that's not the default, because they want you to save a little bit of space on your phone, and a lot of people don't actually need photos in 50 megapixels. And then over here in video, there is actually an option for 2K video, which is pretty impressive. Definitely a nice thing to see, especially on a budget device like this one. And then with the front-facing camera, we are limited at 1080p video for 16:9 videos, so keep that in mind. But still cool to see though that at least with the rear camera, there is an option there for 2K. But let's now take a look at some photo samples from the T-Mobile Revvl 8. Now when it comes to the photo quality of the T-Mobile Revvl 8, I'm actually very impressed. You have to keep in mind that this is meant to be a budget device, so don't have too high of expectations, but at the same time, the results still do look good. I mean, these are perfectly usable photos. If you're on vacation, for example, and you want to preserve some memories, the photos are plenty good for that. And I don't think you'll have too many complaints. Of course, we're losing out on certain features like an ultra-wide camera, but at the same time, other features such as the macro camera can come in handy from time to time, and the photos at least do look decent. So they are good, usable photos from this device. So if that's all you need to know, then just know that that is the case here. But let's now take a look at some video samples from the T-Mobile Revvl 8. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a front-facing test video from the T-Mobile Revvl 8. This video is in 1080p, and if you do hear kind of a buzzing sound in the background, that is the air conditioner over here, so just keep that in mind. But I'm definitely curious to know what you think of both the video and audio quality. Now let me go in the sun a little bit. I was in the shade. but you can kind of see the shadows too, at least how the phone handles that. Whoa, I just almost fell over something, but I'm okay. So anyway, you can see how the shadows are and how that all interacts. I probably should be looking where I'm walking instead of just looking at the phone the entire time. And here is a 2K test video using the main rear camera on the T-Mobile Revvl 8. We have very fast autofocus in video mode, which is good. Now with the T-Mobile Revvl 8, we're getting 6GB of RAM paired up with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 6 Gen 3 processor. Now Qualcomm makes very good processors, and the Snapdragon 6 Gen 3 is certainly meant to be one of their more budget options, but at the same time this is still a perfectly usable phone. The device runs very quickly, it doesn't take a long time to load up apps, even booting up the phone does not take long at all, so that's certainly a great thing to see. Now I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6, and I'll show you the scores right now from that test. And I got a single core score of 823 and a multi-core score of 2527. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone, then compare your scores to these scores to see how this phone really measures up to what you currently have. But in general, I think for most people, especially if they're getting this phone for free or even paying the full $199 for it, they'll be plenty happy with the performance of the device. And then again, since it is a chipset from Qualcomm, you're going to be getting very good reliability here, which is certainly really important, especially since this is your smartphone. Now with the T-Mobile Revvl 8, we are getting a 5000 mAh internal battery, and like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this phone is compatible with up to 25 watt fast charging. Now that certainly does make a difference, that's for sure, with that faster charging, because not only are we getting a large battery here, but at least it won't take that long to actually replenish the battery. So that combination really comes in handy if you are someone who does use your smartphone quite a bit. I don't think you'll have a problem getting through a full day with this device, but if for some reason you do need to recharge the phone, then at least it won't take too long. Now with this device, we are getting Android 15, and it's pretty much a near stock version of the software. There's really nothing added in or modified really from the regular Android, which for some people is a good thing, and for other people you might want some more features. It depends. Especially if you're coming from a Samsung device, this is going to feel very bare bones. But if that's not something you're worried about and you just want the phone for the necessities, then I think you'll be totally happy with the software. And especially if you're coming from other Android devices with pretty much stock, then you're going to feel very familiar and at home here. Now with this device, we're also getting NFC. We're also getting stereo audio, so we're getting audio out of the main speaker on the bottom, and then also the earpiece, which is certainly great if you're watching video content, because that's going to make things very immersive. And then another cool thing about this phone too, is that it does actually feature T-Link satellite with Starlink. Now that's not a feature I've actually tested, but apparently you can stay connected anywhere in the world basically. Anywhere that you can get Starlink reception, you can use this phone and it connects automatically to that mode. So that's really cool, and I know that's definitely a feature that T-Mobile is starting to push more and more to their customers. June of 2024, so at this point that was more than a year ago, and ever since being launched, this device has been extremely successful. Video content looks excellent on this device. The speakers honestly are really loud, especially for a phone in this segment, so that's really cool, and I'm glad about that. So yeah, definitely, if you want to use this phone for viewing video content or just listening to music, it's going to be great for that. So the stereo speakers on here are certainly no joke. Now I already talked about the front panel of the phone quite a bit with these large bezels, the notch up top, and then the front-facing camera. But taking a further look at the hardware of the phone, this phone is completely made out of plastic. On the right side, we have volume up, volume down, and the power button, which is also the fingerprint sensor. On the left side, we have the slot for the micro SD card and SIM card. Then up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. On the bottom of the phone, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the main speaker. And that's another thing. It is nice that this phone does actually have a headphone jack, because that's also a feature that we're seeing less and less of. And then on the back of the phone, we've got the T-Mobile logo, dual camera setup, flash, and that's pretty much it. And this material on the back of the device is kind of soft to the touch. Of course, it is made out of plastic, but at the same time, I like that it's a matte finish, and it doesn't pick up any fingerprints at all. I've been using this phone quite a bit, and you can see that there's no signs of me even using it, which is certainly good. But in general, I'm a big fan of the T-Mobile Revvl 8. I think this phone's an excellent budget option, and especially if you're looking for a phone that's good at kind of the core fundamentals of using a smartphone. But thanks for watching, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of your day.